It's time for going ahead and introducing all the startups and entrepreneurs in our country that are going ahead and bringing about ingrown, homegrown brands that are doing stupendously well. In fact, it is a joint initiative between NewsX and Business World. And without going ahead and wasting any more of our time, let's introduce all my guests who are joining me on the broadcast. We're going to go ahead and talk about the economy, the businesses, and how is the startup community going ahead and forging in these times of crisis. In fact, the crisis is just about to be over. The vaccine is just going to come out in days from now, if not weeks. And let's discuss this. How is that going to impact the economy, the markets, and your individual businesses as well? Bhavik Mitra, who's the Managing Director and CEO of Spot On Logistics, joins me on the broadcast at this point of time. Atul Rai, who's the co-founder and CEO of StackU, joining me on the broadcast as well. Rahul Khanna, who's the founder and director Barcode Entertainment, which is an experiential marketing agency, is joining me on the broadcast as well. So is Pavan Alana, who's the founder and CEO of Metamorphosis. Pankaj Podar, who's the CEO of Cosmo Films Limited, also on the broadcast with us. And in just a short while will be the Editor-in-Chief of Business World, chairperson as well, that has gone ahead and collated this brilliant set of guests who are going to share their experiences with regards to how things have been in the past 9 months, how are things going to go ahead and forge ahead now in the coming 9 months and more. Let's dip into this debate. Joining me on the broadcast, Abhik, let me introduce you on the panel. First of all, if you could share with us, Abhik, what's your business all about? How you've been going ahead and fighting the crisis at this point of time until now. The vaccine is just about around the corner. Is that going to positively, obviously, further impact your business?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Spot On is a logistics company which is focused on express logistics and contract logistics, or 3PL. We are an engineering and tech-enabled company that was founded about 7 years ago when the business split from TNT. I must say that COVID, while it has really been a difficult time for everybody, has presented significant opportunities across both our business lines of express logistics and contract logistics. We have seen almost 21% growth year on year, if I look at it. And if I look specifically at September, October, November, almost 25% growth. Our contract logistics business is growing about 40%. We've been able to add new customers, and clearly I think this is a time when the companies who have rebuilt the network, because all of us went to ground level zero, rebuild the network faster than everybody else, has able to win customer confidence, and also share of wallet and added new customers. Okay. So yes, I think it's been a very trying but yet very positive time over the last few months.
Okay, all right, trying but definitely an experience in itself for across all industries. But let's also get in a word from Pankaj Podar. Pankaj Podar is also joining me on the broadcast. Pankaj Podar, CEO Cosmo Films Limited. What exactly do you do? Are you related to the production of, are you a production house? Are you an advertising agency? If you could shed some more light into it, how has been the impact of the virus, the pandemic and the lockdown been for you? The markets are open for the past several months now. The vaccine just on the anvil. What's going to be the next impact? How exactly are you growing at this point of time?
Yeah, hi. Cosmo Films Group has several businesses. Our film business is actually packaging films and lamination films, synthetic paper. So we service many different industries when it comes to the polypropylene based films. And the second business that we are into is specialty chemicals. There's a subsidiary under the Cosmo Films umbrella, which is manufacturing master batches, chemicals, and we are soon going to come into adhesives as well. The third company, which is a part of the group, is Cosmo Fries, but that's a separate legal entity. Mm-hmm. And the fourth actually launched during the COVID period is a pet care, pet care business where we are going to take care of the pets for the country, as such.
Okay.
As far as the COVID is concerned, the first quarter had been challenging. There were significant issues doing the imports, the exports, transportation was a concern. I would say that the Cosmo team really played a very good role in terms of managing the show and making sure that customers get unparalleled delivery. We have been able to make some decent profits. Our H1 has been, a very good profit year for us. Actually, we made record profits during this year. So company has been growing very consistently, and during this period, one is we were able to create more than 60, 70 jobs, and we are going to create another 200 jobs over next 8 to 9 months.
Okay.
And we have actually announced startup of multiple new businesses. Take the example of ferrites business, where one is government is trying to boost domestic manufacturing, and that is one area that we are evaluating growth. In the film industry, we have actually announced a specialty polyester line, which will be up and running in mid of 2022. Similarly, we are about to start up our chemical business starting March, and we started our master batch line during the pandemic itself, which had been challenging. We were delayed by 3-4 months. But I think the team in Cosmo is doing a phenomenal job, and we could really do a very good job during the pandemic, where one side we were able to improve our operations. On the other side, we were able to announce new business for the growth of the group overall.
So Pankaj,
if I may ask Pankaj,
yeah,
if I join in.
Yes,
see,
yes, go ahead, go ahead.
There is this story of core competence. Aren't you, listening to you, it looks like you're doing well in various domains, but aren't you spreading thin? I'm not an investor in company. Your investors should be asking, and if you own the company. But, how do you bring synergies to various businesses? What is the common focal point? Because at the end of the day, every business needs to have a core that kind creates a differentiator in a way forward.
So see, the group is evaluating opportunities, and our visionary chairman evaluated, opportunity in the film industry around 30 years back. And now again, we are evaluating opportunities. So some of the business has, very similar things, whether it is master batch, chemicals, adhesives, which are part of backward integration and partly forward integration, meeting the same set of customers. Having said that, some of the other businesses that were started are opportunities, like you take the example of ferrites, where we are kind of the only 1 or 2 manufacturers in the country. And given the government's push for electronics, ferrites is growing very significantly for the country as such.
And Pankaj, in your core business, what I want to know, and what our viewers would like to know, is what is the pivot you took in your main existing business while you saw opportunities ahead of time, as you said, as your chairman spotted opportunities 30 years back. It's an inflection point. There are opportunities, and as you know, the Chinese word for problem and opportunity is the same. Whenever there are problems, there are always opportunity. So tell us, what's the pivot you've done around your existing business of Cosmo Films? How has that business changed in the last 8 months?
Yeah, so our main business is the film business, as the name speaks itself. And there are multiple things that we did. First is we announced a new expansion, which is coming with a specialty polyester line into shrink labels and polyester, and helping reduce the temperature of the building. So there are specific applications that we are really targeting in that business. Other than that, I think our entire focus is continuously built on innovation. We are hiring a lot of research engineers month over month. We now have around 30 engineers. Most of them are doctors and postdoctors in the company, and they were able to launch product after another product. So one of the critical areas that company is looking to help the industry and the consumers at large is sustainability. Today sustainability has become such a large topic, and we are able to give flexible packaging structures to brands to have recyclable packaging, which is very easily recyclable. So that is one area for growth for the company. The second area that we are really looking at is synthetic paper. That paper has many applications across the world. I'll tell you, in certain governments within India, they are being used for ration cards, they are being used for writing prescriptions, anything which has to sustain for certificates. In one of the governments in Europe, we are working very closely on the passport. In one of the countries, we are working very closely on the ID cards for that country. So it is something which has very long shelf life and at the same time recyclable. So, it can...
Okay, Pankaj.
Yeah.
Looks like you've taken a traditional business and found new applications while scouting for new business opportunity. Let me bring in Rahul Khanna, Atul Rai, Pawan Alena, and Dr. Mishra into the conversation. Rahul, how has been your business in the last 6 months? And what is the pivot you've taken in your business to be able to relevant in this post-COVID scenario?
Sure. Firstly, thank you, Anurag, for having me on the show. About Barcode, I have been associated with Barcode for the last 2.5 years. We have typically been an event marketing and an offline activations company from when we started. But around 2020 is when we realized when we need to expand towards a digital Bharat, towards a more digital approach for all the customers and the brands that we're catering to. Around the lockdown, around Corona, when the lockdown was announced in India, it was a big hit to us because more than 65% of our business came in from people on the street by various events, by hosting a lot of live events, a lot of celebrity endorsements, so on and so forth. So we took a step back. We took the month of April to analyze what we have to do. But then from May onwards, we created something called as a phygital marketing approach, in which we raised our bets on having more of a digital approach than just the physical approach, and we combined the two and started offering solutions on the phygital marketing side, Anurag. Now, what happened in the last 6 to 8 months, we realized the consumer has the purchasing power. Brands have the spending power. They are just looking out for various, means or routes as to reach out to the end consumer. So using our phygital marketing services, we kind of shifted our...
Understood, Rahul. What might be interesting is a lot of clients went to a pause in May, June, July. I know in October, November, a lot of clients became active because of Diwali, wedding season, IPL. Do you see beyond December same level of spends by clients, or do you see a decline in the spend by clients?
No, I mean, the recovery has just started. June, July was good, but October, November, December, because it's festive, is fantastic. And I think from 2021, it's going from January, February onwards, it's going to be more of a consolidated level. So we are going to be seeing spends increase, but maybe March is when everything would kind of consolidate at a certain level.
Okay, let me bring in Atul Rai. Atul, you heard Pankaj and Rahul in terms of what they have achieved with their companies and how they're looking at the future. Tell us, what have you done to pivot or orbit change in the last 8 months?
So we are in, thanks first of all, thanks for bringing us on this platform. We are an AI startup and we are working in the homeland security domain. So the opportunity came from the fact that in every hour we are having around 100 murders and 300 IPC crimes in India. And 70% of the criminals are repeated offenders, right? So that means if we can use that data, if you can use that data in the real time for perceiving or detecting or maybe responding on that, it will be very beneficial for the country and of course the security of the country, right? And that is where we started, because previously this whole market was controlled by mostly Israelis or Japanese companies in India. So that is the area we entered in this ecosystem in 2016 onwards, and then currently we have around 9 Indian state police forces using our technologies to track criminals and terrorists. We have identified around 3,000 criminals and 8 terrorist modules so far in the country. In terms of course, in the current, so that is where we are using video analytics and audio analytics as our solution. That is where the Jarvis is our product. But recently, in COVID-19 times, we further modified our video analytics module to help, actually we also partnered with Niti Aayog to identify different SOP or the protocols related to COVID-19. Let's say if you have a camera and the person is not wearing the mask, right, in your organization or your factories or your warehouses, So camera will automatically give an alert. That means we are using existing CCTV camera without any new investment to identify different protocols. We got a lot of traction in the food tech industry. We are having TFS, which is Travel Food Services, which is actually managing all the airports for the food sector. We have Rebel Food, Fasos, which of course have the other name, and then we have Piramal, Marico, which is Parachute all company. So we brought various companies to our portfolio in last 4-5 months. I mean, that is actually, I mean, top, you can say it's a tough COVID times at that point of time. But that is where now automation is playing a larger role, because previously people were digitalizing their thing, but now they are moving towards automation. And that's something which is basically where we are.
And Atul, you talked about the fact, you gave statistics in terms of the crime. Give us a sense of the impact you had with your offering. Have you been able to bring, at least in certain pockets or instances, that crime down? Because, stable policy, safe environments lead to a productive GDP growth. And forget anything, at the end of the role of business is to be a social impact business. Pankaj talked about sustainability. The current issue of business world is India's top most sustainable companies. We engage the world's best Sustainalytics Paris to look at the BW 500 companies and kind of do a deep dive analysis of their sustainability practices. These are very large companies who do rely on the planet's resources to be able to do what they do. So clearly, tell us, what is the impact of what you do?
So basically, when I talk about impact, I'm talking about the data which we have got from the police. So when I say, because security has two aspects. One is the government sector and one is the private sector. Though 30% market is the government and the rest of the market is the private sector. But that 30% got impact, like I said, around 3,000 criminals got identified. I mean, and that these are the very top categories, terrorists or criminals got identified with this technology across UP, Punjab, Uttarakhand, Rajasthan.
Yours is you're an insights platform, and knowledge platform or information platform. Ultimately, somebody's got to act on it and do their job. Your job is to be able to bring out the data and possibly prevent crime. Let me go to Dr. Mitra at this stage. Dr. Mitra, tell us, how have you done? The logistics and supply chain business across all verticals has grown. Today, e-commerce is growing. So logistics and supply chain is a sector, warehousing is a sector that is seeing unprecedented interest in terms of investments. Give us a sense of how you have differentiated your offering in a very crowded but growing supply chain and logistics domain. Dr. Mitra?
Mute. Thanks, Anurag, for having me on the show. We have two businesses, the express logistics business and the contract logistics business. And during the COVID period, we've added another business, which is the service parts logistics business. I will talk mainly about the express logistics business and the 3PL business today. When obviously lockdown happened, we completely shut down. And then being an essential services provider as an express industry, because we were delivering medicines, masks, etc., we were allowed to restart. We got the network restarted around mid-May, and then we said, this is a crisis which is unprecedented, but let's take advantage of this crisis. I mean, as somebody said, never waste a crisis. And in our business, service is the most important thing. So the question is, how do you offer the best service in the most difficult time? And for that, obviously, I think the team did an outstanding job. They were constantly in touch with the customer. It's not that we didn't have our share of problems. We had migrant labor leaving in almost 15 of our hubs across India. We had a COVID sort of cases in our Delhi hub. But glad to say that if I look at the business in an overall context, we are growing about 25% year on year as we speak now, as compared to pre-COVID. So what has happened is the business has moved from the unorganized sector to the organized sector. There's been redefinition of market shares between the top 4 players. We compete typically with Gati, XPS, SafeX, FedEx, and Udart. I mean, those are our sort of competition set. In the 3PL space, we compete with TVS Logistics, Mahindra Logistics. And there also we have seen we will probably see about a 45% year-on-year growth as we end this year. So I think there is a crisis. We've tried to make use of the crisis in the right way by focusing on people who are at the center of it, our team. And that's all about trust, the fact that you care for them at this point of time. Because if you care for them, then they will go out and do their jobs.
Absolutely. Well. And yeah, I want to ask you, Dr. Mitra, just to give you our statistics for our panelists and for our viewers, e-commerce from 2000 to 2020 in the US was 16% of the overall e-tailing market. From January 2020 till November 2020, that grew from 16 to more than 26%. So, 16% adoption in 20 years and almost 10.5% adoption in 9 months or 8.5 months. And clearly when there's more e-commerce, there's more logistics, so on. So what are the top 2-3 predictions you have for your sector as we move into 2021?
I think the outlook that we have is extremely positive for all the businesses. I think the vaccine, which was talked about at the beginning, is around the corner. There is a lot of customer pent-up demand, and that will lead to more shipments, more buying. And we ourselves have seen, even though we don't do the home deliveries of B2C, which means we won't be delivering to your home or my home, but the B2B part of the e-commerce movement has also grown very, very significantly with us. So I think the prognosis is, at least in our head as a board, is that in the next 6 to 9 months, we will see the business coming back even stronger. There is already a shift in share between some of the players, and I think that will continue. And those, I think, at this point of time, who provide the best service, both in terms of hard KPIs as well as the softer aspects of being in front of the customer when that's required, I think will win. And I think it's been a very tough journey, but it's been a very successful journey at the end of the last 9 months.
Absolutely. Success favors the brave, the innovative, the resilient, and clearly Indian entrepreneurs are very resilient, and they've shown agility in the last 8-9 months. Let me bring in the youngest on the panel, Pawan Alana. Pawan, you've been helping young adults, millennials, build an entrepreneurial mindset and hopeful build businesses of the future that impact the nation and the society. Tell us, how's been your acceleration in the last 8-9 months? Everybody is in the content space is now an edutech company. Is your company also now an edutech company? Because that tag gets you funding and traction. Tell us how you pivoted over the last 8 months, Pawan.
Thanks, Anurag sir. Thank you for having me here. Last 8-9 months, it is kind of a blessing in disguise because we have completely been transformed from offline to online company. Earlier, it's been three years since we started our operations. We used to deliver entrepreneurial curriculums right from 6th grade onwards, 6th to 12th grade students. So earlier, we used to have a lot of trainers going to the schools and delivering the content. And we used to have about 60 to 70 schools across India where, we used to get tutors locally, train them, and used to send them to the schools. And there was no decentralized mechanism or there is no decentralized assessments for the students. But now everything is virtual, and all the tutors now, we have tutors coming from US, UK, Canada. We have amazing tutors coming from across the world. So this is the biggest transformation that we have seen. And yes, like any other edtech company, we have an edge because, our content plays a very key role here. And also, we need not maintain the tutors physically in every state or in every district. So it is transformed.
What I'd be interested in knowing, I understand where you're going, is the impact. What are the numbers? Has the adoption, is the number of young adults in, my daughter many years back at 14 won a Thai competition, and that put her into entrepreneurship. And, since then she's won, and hopefully she'll go on to build something. So, she started at 14, I started at 28 and a half, which is a long time back. And, clearly, look at big companies like Facebook. Their entrepreneurs started in the college dorms when they were in their early 20s or what about 18, 19. So give us a sense of, has this pandemic created real entrepreneurs from these young millennials?
Absolutely, sir. During this pandemic, there are a lot of case studies. Earlier, we used to have about 14,000 students on our platform. Right now, we are close to 1 lakh students, taking up our curriculums. And the biggest advantage is, the students are getting a lot of time to spend along with their parents. So now, whatever ideas that they are getting, they have been discussing with their parents. There is, fifth grade student who is about 12 years of age. He has built a hydroponics company, and his father has helped him to build that company. right? And likewise, there are many students that are, participating along with their parents, they're brainstorming along with their parents. They have got a lot of time to spend, brainstorm, and, implement these ideas at their home. And there are a lot of e-commerce companies also that have shaped up. People are using Shopify now. Now the students know about, augmented reality, virtual reality. They are doing prototypes at their home, and, they're coming back to the sessions. And second aspect is the scheduling, right? I mean, if at all you see, if all the students are going to the schools, scheduling is a bigger problem because they'll have to travel all the way to the school. They have to, dedicate some time for arts, music, dance, and all. But right now, it is just, people who can actually deliver some content digitally, they are getting a better advantage here. So
you save commute time, you're in the same confines of your home, and hopefully you're concentrating on learning. So clearly, digital offers you scale up, and it changes your consumer behavior, so to say. Though I keep saying that the more digital grows, the value of physical touch is better. I'm doing this from my hotel room in Bombay, my second travel in 9 months. I came because my young colleague who heads our digital business was getting married. Clearly, we have a very young guy leading our digital business, which is always a good idea. But that couldn't have been done virtually. I mean, if I had to make him feel special, I had to take the risk of travel. And I genuinely believe some of the behaviors that we have are not permanent. Right now, we are forced to adopt certain behaviors. We will see when we have a choice what will stick and what will stay, and the juries get out on it. Though, just to give you an example, there are lots of articles written out of nostalgia about cinema halls, in New York Times and in Financial Times and Wall Street Journal, in trade publications in the cinema. But if you ask my children, do they miss cinema? No. They are very comfortable watching whatever they have to watch. So clearly, consumer behavior for the millennials has always been different. Now it is in play. And let me talk of the business domain. I know over the next 10 years, 500 million Indians will enter the domain of business and entrepreneurship. They'll come into the workforce, and they clearly need to get content digitally. They may pick up a magazine, may not pick up a magazine. But today we at a Business World are a digital first platform. We're a daily digital site, and we are no longer a magazine. Magazine is one manifestation of what we do. Tomorrow we may compete with CNBC and ET in terms of the same size of audiences or bigger than them. And that's okay. Life is about coexistence. But the way we define our business is very important. In each of your businesses, how you define your business and how you scale up. Because really, I'm not in the magazine business. I'm in the business content space. I'm in the audiences space. I have a brand and content, and I have an audience, that can manifest itself in various ways, B2C, B2B, so on and so forth. Now, let me go back across to Pankaj before Megha comes in and does the second round of questions. Pankaj, what is the mindset change that you yourself have seen over the last 8 months in your own way of doing business and in other entrepreneurs that you interact with?
Yes, so there are many changes as such, and there are many learnings. The biggest one obviously is that earlier people used to travel, like anything.
Drop of a hat.
Yeah, no, it was
because
a norm.
India, we're a very face-to-face, relationship-based society. You want to see the body language.
Yeah.
You want to sit across the table and talk. That was a habit.
Yeah. So I think the entire digital thing is picking up really fast. Everybody is realizing that this is the way to go, and customers are looking for convenience in a very big way. So one side, customers are ready to pay some premium for the convenience they are getting, and the other side, everybody is realizing that is the way to go. So I think that is one major learning. From a household perspective, people are realizing that touching back your family, staying with them, spending time with them, that is another critical learning. Third is those who are in an expansion mode. I think for them it's not easy because they have to meet new set of customers, and they are realizing, Pawan earlier said that from a education company now they're becoming a digital company, and so many companies I have seen who have quickly changed the model. In fact, I talk about the pet care business that we are launching in next few months. Initially, we thought that we are going to open experience stores on day one. And then we realized, no, I think digital has to happen first. And then the experience stores have to start with the customer.
That's a big mindset change.
Yeah.
Typically, we did physical first and then did digital. You're saying today digital may lead to physical stores. And beautiful. And again, pets is a great business. I can tell you that we adopted a pet in this lockdown. My children adopted a pet because, a pet can make up for the friends, keeps you busy. And clearly they need care. So clearly there is a need for a pet care business that is national, a brand. And clearly digital being a way to deliver the services will continue to be the first way that a lot of consumers access products and services. What else, Pankaj? What has been your top lockdown lessons?
So I think especially when you're in expansion mode, you have to really touch base with the customers. And good thing is, I think everybody is realizing what search engines can provide you, getting information faster. So earlier people used to think that only talking can help in terms of getting information, or meeting people will get them information. Now, I think it's a lot about digital in multiple different ways. There are a lot of, I think, especially again, if you talk about households, they're learning to spend less, managing their budgets better, spending time with the families, learning how to be at home and still learn. So there are n number of realizations which a person is having. Having said that, I think there is also a craving to meet more people. The realization is coming that sooner than later you need to people, because human beings are social animals, to say. So that is another need which is clearly being felt, that you cannot stay without it. I wish that it gets over fairly fast, so that people can again start meeting people and enjoy the well-being of in the company of others. So one side, I think digital is the biggest learning. Without travel, you can stay, is the another learning. And I think for a country like India, the other good thing happened is we realized that we do not need to import as much, and we can export more, right? So that is another very beautiful learning which has happened in these COVID times. I'm sure there must be others too, but there's a lot of good learnings for people at large.
Atul Rai, co-founder and CEO, Staku. We talk about learnings, and we have pointed out about a digital imprint that has been cast across all industries, across all sectors, across all fields. And then there is a fatigue that is growing in. Is there a middle point that every single industry is going to go ahead and forge for itself, and a definition is going to be brought about when are the meetings going to happen, when is it that those digital interactions can be taken forward, and of course there is going to be an ecosystem that is going to be built around it?
So was this question for me?
Yes, Atul. Yes. Atul. Atul Rai?
Okay, yeah. So basically, to be very honest, this whole the COVID times came as an advantage to us. Of course, when we work with the government sector as one of the part, right? So mostly, most of the time, government officers want you to be there in their office to discuss any kind of opportunity, right? And since we are working with the 9 Indian state police forces, so you have to run from Punjab to Uttarakhand to Bihar to UP. That take a lot of times, right? So, but after this COVID times, people are basically, adopting the digital practice, and that's really great. Of course, now it is really easier for us to basically interact different police forces or different, let's say, government client which we have in a very easier manner. We need not to travel a lot.
Okay.
That one advantage I would say, definitely coming to us. Second part, of course, is in terms of the learning. Of course, we are an AI company, and this is something where innovations are coming every day. Every day something new is coming, and as an AI company, when we say AI company, we have done 25 plus research papers, 4 research papers this year, and 2 patents as well, right? So learning is actually a DNA of our overall company, because if you not innovate, you'll not survive in any way, right? So, of course, for example, let's say when we targeted the COVID-19 related protocols using video analytics, that means detecting a mask using a camera is something which is new for anyone, right? So, you have to have those skills, you have to have learned those kind of things every day, so that in a tough times you can modify your technology, you can add new features and all. So I'd say, yeah, of course, learning is always there, and without COVID also, we are always doing those kind of a new skill development and bringing new research papers and all. And of
Right.
course, this whole, as I said, this whole time come as an advantage to us. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay. I also wanted to respond from Rahul Khanna, founder and director, Barcode Entertainment. And Rahul, obviously, this is sort of a situation that we find ourselves in. Digitization has been definitely propagated by the Prime Minister as well. There has been the Prime Minister Vani, which is the public interface network that has been brought about. It is going to be Wi-Fi that is going to be provided on a huge scale, where hundreds and thousands of those PDOs, which are public data offices, that are going to be set up in the remotest part of our regions of our country. It's going to be a very similar parallel system that had been followed perhaps 20 years ago when we had those PCOs, the public call offices that had been set up. And now that integration is coming in, and the government is taking that massive push towards it, which means the problems that Atul mentioned, that at this point of time you have to be physically present at a government office. Maybe let's take a look at and give it a 5-year shot, and things are going to be completely transformative completely at this point of time, maybe 5 years from now.
Yes. So one of the things that I believe is that India has changed from where it was 20 years back. We were more of a agrarian or an agriculture-based economy. Now, we are slowly moved towards becoming a manufacturing plus services economy. I think 5 years down the line, 2025, we should be a combination of agriculture, manufacturing, and services economy, which is one of the best things to have in the world. We would perhaps be on the number 2 or number 3 behind US when it comes to economy. Another thing, as said by our Prime Minister, to have a self-reliant India. And Mr. Podar and Mr. Mitra, how they have been running traditional businesses and moving towards a more startup approach. I think a lot of SMEs should start following the same format, in which we should now not have a conservative approach towards business. It should be much more bold and aggressive. We should think as a startup, as a lean team, and ensure that we are delivering results with that lean team and get going. So those are my couple of points, as a response.
Interesting. Abhik, you want to join in this conversation? The push that has been taken forward by the government extensively, Atmanirbhar, digitization, Atmanirbhar being extremely corroborative, and entities like yours would be definitely beneficial to this.
Oh, it would be hugely beneficial. Clearly with manufacturing happening all across India now, we are talking about Apple coming in. And whenever one factory like that gets built up, there are multiple ancillaries that need to move things around. Parts come in from outside, finished products go out. So yes, I think the logistics industry is poised for huge growth with the Make in India strategy. And also with some of the corridors that are being considered, the Delhi-Bombay freight corridor as an example, where the movement speed and cost will also change dramatically. So I think the logistics business is probably at the best place it has been in many years.
Absolutely.
And Megha, if I may add,
yes,
there are new industries being created, there are new companies being created, there are existing companies, because of the traction in certain sectors, they are themselves getting accelerated. And what will happen is, as Pankaj rightly said, every business has to be a digital first business and then add on layers. But I keep saying, if you have to sell something online, you also got to manufacture it. Somebody also got to deliver it. So clearly, as the internet economy, the digital economy grows, every part of the economy grows. Yes, there are certain sectors that, because of the nature of being contact sectors, till a vaccine comes and the fear factor goes away, will continue to be impacted negatively. But overall, every sector post 6 months should grow. If the distribution starts in 3 months, and over the next 3 months, a lot of Indians get vaccinated, and we're able to tackle the health issue, the livelihood issues will get tackled on its own. And Pawan, what I would like to know from you is, when you talk to young people, what is the change in their own mindset? What is the subtle change or very obvious change in the kind of conversations you have with them?
Yeah, so when I interact with the students, the biggest transformation that I've seen is, the self-discipline that they have learned during this lockdown. Now, every kid has got their own schedules during the lockdowns. From morning, them waking up, whether they're waking up late or not, but still they follow a proper agenda, right? So that has been, that is the biggest change that I've seen in them. And now a lot of business world quotient, right? I mean, now they are following the updates from, lot of channels. They're all getting, they're now trying to understand the business models behind every app that they are downloading. In this lockdown itself, they have downloaded more than 50 apps, whether it is house party app or something. Now, what we have done, interestingly, is we ask them to, understand the business models of each app. Now, every student that is downloading a new app, they're talking about how they are generating money, what is their business model behind that. So that thinking has completely been transformed. So this is one biggest thing I've seen, sir. I mean, during this lockdown, the self-discipline and also, the curiosity to ask the questions.
Thank you so much. And I want to go on and ask all the entrepreneurs. I want a very honest, short answer to these two, a specific answer, and not, parables and it depends kinds of answers. Because of course we can defend anything around it depends. I went to a business school, and anything my professor asked, I could tell him it depends on this and that. But I want to know two things. One is, how do you see the interventions from the government in terms of the economic packages, the stimulus from the government? What do you think the government has done right? What can the government do from this point on? Second, when do you see the economy coming back in full bloom? 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? And whatever you say, qualify that. Let me again start with Pankaj. First of all, how do you rate the response of the government, and give us some qualitative aspects?
Yes, the government has largely given three kind of stimulus to the country. The first one is a working capital, where they deferred loan payments, they deferred some interest payments, and it virtually helped all the small scale industries because it was meant for the small scale industry. The second stimulus came for specific sectors, and they were really excellent stimulus, whether it is electronics, automobiles, pharma, textiles. And I think the very big focus was on electronics, because India does very significant import of electronics, and even we are encouraged to invest in our ferrites business, and we are seriously evaluating that. The third came the Atmanirbhar Rozgar Yojana to encourage employment. So I think whatever government has done is really great. They are in the right direction. But we feel that there are a lot of other things which this government can do, they have the intention to do, and they must try and do. The first is to provide a level playing field. Indian costs are still high. We are, with such a large population, we are still carrying high cost of transportation, high cost of power, the interest cost. I think in COVID period it has come down, but in general, if you see the businesses getting in, the working capital, and
I keep saying, Pawan or Pankaj, that India has the highest cost of capital.
Yeah.
Japan is 1%, Europe is 0%, and everywhere else it is 2 to 4%. I mean, in India we've gone down from 14 to 8-9%, but still it's the highest in the world.
Yeah. So I think one is to bring down the cost of the business. Now I will also say something which is contrary to the first thing, is to increase the minimum wages. I know many manufacturing industries will say, why should you increase minimum wages? It is going to increase the cost. But we feel that in India, given that people are paid so less, they are hardly able to spend on their education and their other means. It will have many positives, because one is it is going to create demand across the board. Second is people will be able to spend on their basic necessities of education, food, health, and eventually there will be more competition, because when you get a better salary, you obviously see that very junior shop floor employees, they are not as motivated in many cases, while senior and middle level are far more motivated and concerned about saving their jobs, and therefore a better minimum wage will make a significant difference, not immediately, but I think in 2-3 years we'll see. And we have one of the lowest minimum wages in the world, and there should be absolutely no reason for it. Maybe that will promote automation as well for a country like India, which is needed in certain areas. We still do very poor methods, which impacts the quality of the product, which impacts the quality of the service that we give, and so on and so forth. The government is rightly investing in the infrastructure, but the speed of change has to be faster. Our ports are jam-packed. Our road infrastructure still has challenges. Those issues have to be sorted out. I think the power challenges are largely sorted out, though there are still gaps. But if you go to any industrial area, you do not see a nice road. I mean, it feels me surprising that most of the tax actually come through industry, and the industrial roads are in a horrible, horrible condition. So it needs to be improved. I think the education sector, again, is a very important sector, which government is focusing. There's a new education policy, but promoting education at all levels, making it compulsory, making sure every child of this country gets basic minimum education. I think that is another important thing. One of the retrograde steps which I feel government took was to disincentivize the R&D. India has such a beautiful talent. We have the best engineers in the world. We produce so many engineers. Government used to give only a tax benefit earlier, which was taken away. But I think if you see all the developed countries, they give so many incentives. They have centralized institutes giving R&D to the industry at large. The college to industry tie-ups are far better. I see so many multinationals coming to India, take that talent away. So R&D is another area which must be promoted to really change the shape of the country and to bring...
Pankaj, you made very valuable point. I want to ask you and Abhi two questions. One is, we saw the labor going to their hometowns, to their cities. Have you seen labor started come back? And you talk about labor rates and wage rate. My friends who are in manufacturing tell me that actually the industrial activity has gone down and the labor wages have actually come down instead of going up. I would like to know both from you and Abhi, what is the situation on the ground?
You want me to answer first?
Yes, and then Abhi.
So see, I think for the small scale industries, we feel wages have gone up to some extent when I talk to some of my friends who are running small, because what happened is some industries really started paying more when the labor was in shortage. When you talk about larger industries, I think their wages have remained unchanged. They had pressures, like we also paid a lot of different incentives to recognize the efforts which our employees were making during the COVID period. So many industries were downsizing and paying lesser wages. Cosmo adopted a different way of incentivizing people and paying them more, because we thought that they are getting out of their homes and coming to work. But I think larger industries, the impact has rationalized. There is no impact now. Smaller companies are still struggling. They are not getting the right labor, and they are,
Abhi, your comment on this?
So I think the migrant labor that works in our hubs and warehouses have certainly started coming back almost from August onwards, because they realized that once they went back to their villages, there wasn't any source of livelihood for them. And that's really an unfortunate part of what India is today, that still the jobs are concentrated in some of the bigger cities in that way. I think to your earlier point on what I think Pankaj answered on the minimum wages, and many of that I agree with. Though I think the conversation really at the government now needs to be, what can we do quickly so that what could take 12 months or 14 months or 18 months to bring the economy back, I can bring it back in 6 months. I think the conversation has to be a very sharp conversation, because that difference of 8 to 12 months, if you can get it faster by doing a few more things like spurring demand in certain areas, whether it's the bank interest rates. I think we still have to fix our banking infrastructure, the NBFC issues, because those are longer term issues. But I think there are short term questions that need to be asked and answered.
Okay, Avik and Pankaj, before I go across to Pawan, Rahul and Atul, I want to ask you a specific question on when do you think the economy will be back in full bloom? 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? First you, Abhi, and then Pankaj.
Yeah, my guess, Anurag, is anywhere between 6 to 9 months. And where I'm coming from is, I think the vaccine will start coming out in the next 2-3 months. Once that happens, the serological sort of point, not to herd immunity, but you will still get to higher levels of immunity, and therefore, you will start seeing drops in the numbers, and that will start bringing back confidence. I think there is a big consumer pent-up demand for spending. They just need to go out and buy things. I mean, yes, you can buy things through Amazon and Flipkart, but I think the human aspect of going out will start coming back again. So I think 6 to 9 months is my guess at the moment.
And Pankaj?
I largely agree to what Abhik said, but I would add one more point. See, you can actually bifurcate growth into two set of industries. There are certain sectors which are already back on track, growing, and if you really see this
We call it the K-shaped model.
Yeah, exactly.
Certain sectors are growing and certain sectors continue to peter down.
So some sectors have started growing and some are really showing encouraging numbers, while there are other sectors which is impacted, especially tourism, airlines, hotels. They are worrisome, and I think they will take some time to get back. But in general, I think once the vaccine comes, there should be a lot of demand coming back to the country.
Okay, same question to Rahul Khanna, same question to Atul Rai and Pawan Elana. When will the economy be back? What is the time frame and why? Let me get Rahul first, Atul, and then Pawan. Rahul?
So, Anurag, to answer your question, I'll break it in two parts. One is that the government's initiative on all this is to get most of the businesses digital, which again a lot of businesses are not aware about. That actually every business in the country is digital. The second point is that India is heading towards becoming the Silicon Valley, and like I mentioned, I'm very positive by 2025 we should be very much towards the manufacturing, services, and agriculture-based economy. I feel that to answer your question, we should be having a V-shaped recovery and getting back on our track within 6 to 9 months.
Okay, 6 to 9 months seems to be the flavor of the panel. Let me go to Mr. Rai and then come to Mr. Elana. Mr. Rai, what is your view?
So I believe, of course, there's the first thing, of course, as government also started one very good part is the Atmanirbhar wala part. So basically Atmanirbhar is something where now, Indian companies are getting preference in various part, right? And that gives us the benefit as one of the panelists, I think Pankaj was saying that there has to be leveled field because you are competing with the global companies, right? And Indian economy will grow, the Indian companies will also grow, right? So that is where this Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, which is there, is basically helping us to get the customers, not only the government sector, but also in the private sector, because the whole policies are driven in a way that, of course, we are having an advantage over any international companies, right? So that is one thing, and based on that, I believe in the next 6 to 8 months, we are going to get a good recovery in terms of the economy part. But of course, in our terms, we already have reached to our pre-COVID revenue. So, I am a bit optimistic, but 6 months is something I believe is a good time to reach the good revenue, good economy in the country. So, I believe so, yeah.
Okay, final word from Pawan before Megha wraps up the show.
I'm going to talk about startups perspective here, Anurag sir. It will definitely take at least 9 to 12 months to revive. Even if at all we are reviving, to sustain that, I think government should take a lot of initiatives with respect to rural entrepreneurship, or encouraging, a lot of rural entrepreneurship is something in order to sustain this revival. I think it will take at least 9 to 12 months.
Okay, I would add my bit here saying there are two big variables. One is the efficacy of the vaccine. The vaccine will come in 2 months, and I'm an optimist, so I'm sure it'll be, effective and it'll be distributed fast. And the government, in my view, till now, has done a stellar job in tackling whatever it wanted to tackle. And I know that the government, post the vaccine, possibly will do a boost so that there is a supply side boost, there is a demand side boost, and that will happen through government spending. Currently, in certain sectors, government doesn't want the demand to come back because they're contact sectors, whether it's travel, whether it's hotels, whether it's QSRs. Because the healthcare problem does not have a solution. So the moment there is a vaccine that starts getting distributed and its efficacy is proved to some extent, I have no doubts it is effective because the government has done all the right checks to be able to see that. But the moment there is a acceptance of that and there is a demonstration of that, I think the government will go into a mode of public spending, and that will have a multiplier or a trickle-down impact. In my view, in most sectors, over the next 6 to 9 months, the economy could come back, and 2022 should be a year that will set India on a growth path. We are sitting on gold here, not literally gold, which we are, and foreign reserves, but we are literally sitting on an economy that has the biggest demand internally anywhere in the world. Our banking system has been made more robust in the last few years, and technology and digital are kind of helping us leapfrog in many sectors. So back to you, Megha.
All right, thank you, Anurag, for giving your insight and a forecast with regards to the economy reviving and on a full large scale, obviously basis on the vaccine. Everybody's eyes are now awaited on the distribution factor and the logistics factor and the cold chain that are going to be established at the local level and obviously countrywide level. I thank all my panelists joining me on the broadcast as well, sharing their viewpoints, sharing their experiences, and making us more knowledgeable with regards to what's happening.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.